Good evening, and welcome to the Putnam Valley Board of Education meeting of March 23rd, 2017. Please stand and join me in a salute to our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And happy spring, everybody.
Ms. President?
Yes.
I would like the board to change the order of the agenda due to the play and Erin's commitment to the play. I'd like to have the student representative reports done after the treasurer's report.
Is everyone okay with that on board? The show must go on, Erin. We can definitely do that. I'll start then with the resolution to approve the minutes of the work session business meeting of March 9th, 2017.
Second.
Questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, moving right along to the treasurer's report. It is not coming up. Hold on. The treasurer's report is available in the business office for February 2017. And now let's move right to student report.
So as an update on the spring musical, the cast and crew have been very busy lately and have had many late nights rehearsing. On Monday, we had a cast-to-cast shout-out with Dobbs Ferry, and many of the cast and crew members started realizing how fortunate they are to have the funding that we do and the opportunities to put on 2 shows a year, because they found out that Dobbs Ferry only has a chance to put on 1 show every 2 years. The musical is set during the 1984 UK miners' strike and centers on a young boy named Billy and is hoped to become a professional ballet dancer. Tickets are officially for sale right now, and you can buy them online on the PVCSD website. The cost is $12 for adults and $6 for children, 18 and under, and senior citizens. There are 3 performances, one on Friday, March 31st at 7, another on Saturday, April 1st at 7, and the final show on Sunday, April 2nd at 2 p.m. So get your tickets now because we're almost sold out.
On Wednesday, March 22nd, the PVHS Guidance Department hosted the annual College Admissions Night. Paul Krisiak, Senior Associate Director of Admissions Counselor at Quinnipiac University, spoke about the admissions process and answered questions. Freshmen, sophomores, and juniors, as well as their parents, attended, and everybody learned a lot. Thank you to the Guidance Department for hosting this event.
For spring sports just started last week, and all the teams have begun their practices, so we're excited to see how well our teams are going to do this year. And for the winter sports, the Journal News noted that TJ Brescia and Darnell Shillingford as all conference boys basketball players.
Recently, the student government has taken on a new initiative. We have proposed the establishment of a program which we have chosen to call the Student Shadowing Program. The idea is that faculty members get a chance to shadow a student throughout the day of classes to understand what it feels like to be a student at PVHS. The program aims to better facilitate communication between students and faculty and to, in general, improve the school in any way possible. The student government thanks Ms. Intrieri for her support and hopes to continue to move forward in establishing the program.
This past Monday, the Putnam Valley Elementary School hosted the annual Science Maker Fair, where young scientists had been working on their projects for weeks and finally got the chance to present their work. Students learned about static electricity, recycling, crystals, the solar system, and batteries. The event was a great success, and congratulations to all who were involved.
That's great. Thank you very much. Congratulations to everyone. And now let's move right into Pride in Putnam Valley. We have a full house this evening.
Turn on the microphone.
Hit the on switch.
Thanks, Harry.
Our student athletes
exemplars of excellence in our school district. These are athletes who have performed so well that they were able to compete at the state level. This is really an honor in a state such as New York. And we're going to start with our gymnast, and that is Caitlin Pellegrino for Pride in Putnam Valley for her gymnastics work. Caitlin, we're recognizing your athletic achievement in reaching the New York State Gymnastics Tournament. Also, we want to recognize that you don't have a team here in Putnam Valley. You're part of a larger team, which is really remarkable. You get to know others. But I know that gymnastics is a personal best sport, and I congratulate you at your persistence and perseverance in this sport. And I know that Mr. Burrow wants to say a few words as well.
I was hopeful that the coach would be able to join us today. There he is. Come on up. Now,
On cue.
I'm glad you made it, Coach. So this is somewhat unique that this is a merged sport, so this is the first time that the coach and I have actually met each other. But we, of course, follow along and do our best to share information from those merged activities as that information comes in. So I would like to say congratulations to the coach who received Coach of the Year this year. And Caitlin's team went undefeated this season, correct? And in order to receive the award that she is tonight, she was the all-around winner for the section, thus carrying her into the state competition. And she's in 8th grade, which is pretty incredible. So congratulations.
For me, this is, has a little special, there's a special aspect because both my daughters were gymnasts, and I remember many days, day long, in Maine, sitting at the tournaments, both at the school and at the regional and at the state. So it is quite a commitment for a whole family as well. I know that. Next, we would like to bring up our wrestlers who are here this evening. And we have our whole wrestling team, and special commendations to the team that went to the state. We have, I'd like to bring everybody up, and Mr. Mahoney, do you want to speak first before I give these out? Sure. Would you like to say a few words? Yes. Thank you.
So our Putnam Valley wrestling team had an outstanding season. We placed second as a team in the section, which is a pretty amazing fact because we only brought 12 of a possible 17 wrestlers to sectionals. And of those 12, 10 placed in the top 5 in their weight classes, with 8 placing in the top 2. We qualified 6 wrestlers for the state tournament, and of those 6, 3 of them earned all state honors by placing top 6 in New York State. Thank you. So the 2 wrestlers that qualified for the state tournament were Robbie Velichko and next is Constantine George. And also Jared Eliopoulos.
That we have others who could not be here this evening: Kyle Sams, Satoshi Abe, and Michael Bruno. We congratulate all of the wrestlers for a phenomenal season and for their dedication to this sport. And Mr. Mahoney, Mr. Carano, who have done so well as their coaches. Thank you. Thank you. Next, we have an amazing list of cheerleaders. Our cheerleading team has done so well. They came in second at the state. And their coach, Regina Albano, who has been so dedicated and committed to this team. So much is done throughout the year. The last, every time there's a fundraiser or something that she needs to do to make this happen, she's all in, all enthusiasm. She's a cheerleader herself, and we thank her for her dedication over the years. Regina, thank you. And with that, will the cheerleaders come up?
I just want to say thank you to everybody, the board, the superintendent, the athletic director, the principals. We did say this the other night at our dinner, but without them and their support, I wouldn't have been able to do what we could do with this team. I also this year had an assistant coach, Kelly Wilson, who was the modified, but also volunteered as the varsity coach. And it was such an asset to have a second coach with us at all times, because it really just advanced them in tumbling, because I just can't, spot them anymore. I tried to grab Caitlin in the fall, but gymnastics went out. So congratulations on that too. But the girls did an amazing job. We had 10 tournaments, 5 first place wins, 3 second place wins, a third place win, a fourth place win in a grand championship round. We went to Ocean City. We took first in nationals there, although it was a small competition. If we were against everybody out of state, which we're not allowed to, we would have been 5th out of 33 teams. And they got grand champs that day as well in their smaller division. So congratulations, and they're such a pleasure and joy to work with, and we look forward to more years. At their all-star practice or other sports right now. So we have Sam Bruno.
Rose, right? Antonio Wise? Shannon Lee? Caitlin Sigmund? Cassie Tenisaka? Keiko Waters. Thank you all very, very much for being here this evening. So that we can write that down. Thanks. Thank you for being here. I'm going to read all the names of all the cheerleaders. It'll include those who are not here and those that are. So Abigail Alvarez, Samantha Bruno, Emily Casey, Samantha Dalton, Antonia DeFusco, Rose Gencarelli, Nia Givan, Jenny Hernandez, Antonia Hoyos, Shannon Lee, Lily Medici, Rebecca Mosney, and Angelica Ordonez, Kayla Ortiz, Lauren Pateman, Tess Rian, Kylie Shocker, Caitlin Sigmund, Cassie Tenisaka, Kiana Thompson, and Keiko Waters. Congratulations to all of you. Mr. Burrow, did you want to say something about the team?
This is just a small testament to the accomplishments that our winter athletes are a part of. Last year we had incredible accomplishments with some basketball teams and cheerleading as well. We sent wrestlers to states. And this year we have gymnastics shine. Cheerleaders repeat, they're undefeated in sectionals. This is 2 times in a row. Sent 6 wrestlers to states, which actually gave them the best qualifying score. They came in 7th place, which is the best we've ever done in the state tournament. And this is just a testament to not only our student athletes, but the work that they do in the classroom and maintain all of their studies while they're competing at a high level. So I wish them all, the ones that are here with us and the ones that have not made it this year, congratulations on an excellent, excellent season.
So our next presentation is a presentation on our district clubs.
We're going to start with elementary clubs, is that it? Okay, so our assistant principals will be giving this presentation, starting with Ms. Mistretta. And, you know, before we begin the presentation, I just want to say that really clubs are often overlooked, and the number of clubs and the kinds of clubs, when we're talking about a comprehensive school district. We're very fortunate to have the number of clubs we do. When other districts look at what we offer our kids, they are pretty amazed, because the passions of our children are reflected in our clubs, and also our community, the passions of our community. And for kids who are, you know, in a school doing academic work, it really is the opportunity to meet other students, to work with others, to work with other teachers on a subject or an area that they are excited about, that really propels them throughout their scholastic career. And we cannot underestimate the value of the extracurricular activities that our students get involved in, whether it's athletics or the actual clubs around so many different subjects. So this is a very important presentation this evening. It's an important component of our school district.
Good evening, Jeanette Mistretta, Assistant Principal at the elementary school. So tonight I'm going to go over the 5 clubs that are running at the elementary school and just give a brief update. So these are our clubs: Kids of Character Club, Safety Patrol, the PVES Musical, Destination Imagination, and our new Maker Club. So our Kids of Character Club is advised by Lauren Soprano. She leads that group. There are 28 3rd and 4th graders. They meet on Fridays throughout the school year. This club promotes our great expectations, being kind, safe, respectful, and responsible in various ways. They lead our recycling and redeeming efforts. They devise ways to address anti-bullying issues, and they brainstorm ways to make our community a better place to live and to learn. This year, the Kids of Character created informational and multicultural bulletin boards that are displayed around the school to celebrate the diverse community in Putnam Valley. They are currently working on an informational film, a little short movie about our school's recycling procedures. The Kids of Character also partner with our PVES Character Education and Diversity Committee by taking part in character education initiatives and projects and becoming role models for the community. Coming up soon, we have our Support the Troops Drive this year, which is a partnership with the Character Education and Diversity Committee. All students in the elementary school have a chance to participate in this. They're sending in items to donate, such as chapstick, toothpaste, tissues, gum, and other items to donate to our nation's troops. And our students will all come together and attend a very important assembly about our U.S. troops at the end of this month. This is our Safety Patrol. The Safety Patrol is a new club this year. The Safety Patrol is led by 4th grade teacher Katie Odell. We have 60 4th graders serving as safety patrollers. The club is based on the AAA program that has existed in schools for many years. They are split into 3 sessions, the fall, winter, and spring. These students had to fill out applications, they had to sign contracts, they had to maintain certain academic, attendance, behavior standards in order to remain in the club. Mrs. Odell holds regular lunch meetings to discuss responsibilities, assignments, and school posts that are designated for the safety of all of our students. The program has been very successful in its first year at the elementary school, and all of the teachers and main office staff, including myself, really appreciate the extra help that they give us all day long, particularly at arrival and dismissal times. And I just have to say they are so wonderful with our youngest students. When we need someone to escort a little kindergartner, they take them by the hand and they walk them down, and you see the little kids looking up to them, and it's really a wonderful program. Our PVES Musical. This is run by Chrissy Phillips, Maddie Calhoun, and Ashley Bennett. This year we had 53 third and fourth graders participate in the musical. This year our school musical was Seussical Kids. Mrs. Phillips, Mrs. Calhoun, and Mrs. Bennett did an outstanding job with this very large cast. There were many helpers and volunteers that gave their time to the kids. The student performers were so very talented. They were excited. They were really proud of their performance. They were really proud of their friends, and the costumes were amazing, adorable. This year we had 2 teams from the elementary school participate in Destination Imagination. Our youngest team, the Pizza Panthers, was managed by parents Sheila Kumas and Abdi Ramos. There were 6 children that participated. They completed a challenge called Save the Day, which required them to create a play that told a story and included a beginning, middle, and end. The challenge also required them to use a simple machine to create a brand new complex machine that would help them solve a problem. Our older team was the Support Beams, and that was led by parents Janet and Brian Weed. There were also 6 participants in that team. Their challenge was called In It Together, and it was an engineering challenge in which the team had to design and build 2 or more freestanding structures that would work together to hold weight. They needed to develop a strategy for the placement of the structures, and they also had to create and present a story about an international issue and how different nations would work together to solve it. The kids chose Too Much Homework as their international issue, I suppose, could be, and used interactive field trips and the maker space to solve it. We're very proud of our DI participants for their creative thinking, their hard work, and their support of each other while problem-solving complex challenges. Another new club that we have this year is the Maker Club. This club is run by Jen Bruno and Liz Broas. There are 45 third and fourth grade students that participate. The club meets weekly in our new maker space. There were 2 sessions that ran in the fall and winter months, and another session just began this month and will run until May, so there's 15 students in each session. The Maker Club encourages inquiry-based thinking. The kids were trained in proper use and safety of various tools that are used in making, such as power drills, screwdrivers, hammers, hot glue guns. The makers have designed and created their own movable art bots, individual marble and hex bug mazes, group survival shelters, which is shown here, LED invitations, cookie making, popcorn making, and the final project was building bridges using various materials. Each session ends with their own little mini maker fair where the parents are invited to come in and attend and share their child's maker adventure. We're really excited to have this new club. It's very popular. These were the survival shelters that they made. They had to build a shelter that would house one person and protect them from the elements of nature, weather, wildlife, and one person had to be able to fit inside. And the materials had to be something that you would have in your backpack if you were hiking. I would like to thank the board for the recent approval of our new club, the Explorers Club. We're very excited to be offering this new club to students next year. So thank you.
Thank you. Should we clap? Which one we can clap? That's very good. Nice presentation.
All right, good evening, everyone. My name is Travis McCarty. I have the pleasure of being the assistant principal of Putnam Valley Middle School. And I'm here to speak about the clubs that we offer at the middle school. And you're going to notice we do have quite a few. At this time, we're up to 25 clubs that we do offer. And we do have a little bit of interest in adding a few more next year. So I'll talk about that a little bit as we progress. So you're going to see we start off with the art club. It's draw, paint, and create. And at this time, we have around 20 students. And Miss Nida and Mrs. Sharp have shared with me that there's tremendous creativity in this club. And they actually thought that they would need to cap off how many students attend this club at the beginning of the year because it became so clustered in the art room. So at this time, we average around 20 students. Mrs. Brothers runs the cheerleading club, and it just began this winter. That's the span that it ranges from, and she meets in the mornings and averages 14 students. We had what was called the chess and board gaming club. Due to low enrollment, we did recently have to cancel that club, but we're hoping to gain more interest next year because it's nice to see students competing against one another in that in the morning hours. Mrs. Diaz is running a new club this year. It's known as the Dance Club. And we had a few high school students come to the middle school and propose to me this new club. And I said, absolutely. I said, you need to find an advisor to run the club. And I was hopeful it was a teacher within the middle school building. So these students approached Ms. Diaz, and they've been running it ever since. And Ms. Diaz is really the facilitator. The high school students help to show middle school students these dance techniques, and they really enjoy it. Mrs. Cron runs the drama club, and we average 10 students. Mrs. Parchin, a very popular club, I believe it's every Monday morning, runs the field hockey club in our middle school gymnasium. Mr. Carlin runs our Go Green Club, which is also one of those clubs that we see quite a few students attend. And the Go Green Club recycles bottles one day a week, and they recycle papers throughout the building the second day of the week. And in the past, they've contributed to donating money to countries in Africa. And I think last year they sponsored an endangered species. Mr. Berkey runs the Guitar Club, and as you can see, we have an average of around 16 students. Very impressive to see these students coming through the middle school with their guitars in the afternoon, and I know he has a lot of fun with that club. Mrs. Brothers and Mrs. Magnieri run what's called the Homework Club, and this is invite only, and we have 33 plus students. And this is a really nice opportunity for students who are struggling with their homework to get it complete, and high school students come over to mentor these middle school students, and they form relationships. We offer food, and food always attracts students, and it's a nice turnout for all of our students that participate in that. The Instant Challenge DI Club, we had very low enrollment, so we had to cancel it. Again, in the future, we look to get more participation because in the past, we have had more students attend. Mr. Gallo runs the Intramural Club, which meets 2 days a week, and each day he averages 18 students. This gives an opportunity for our 5th and 6th graders to play various games, as well as our 7th and 8th graders who come on the other days. So we do have a high turnout for Intramural Club in our gymnasium. And then Mrs. Sherwood runs what's called our I-Team. This is a team that goes around the building and they help with our printers. They refill our printers. I've seen them up on ladders dusting off our projectors, and they really help to advise teachers on ways to improve the technology that they're using, and it's really nice to see these young boys and girls involved in technology throughout our building. Mrs. Sherwood also runs iVoice, and we average about 6 students. These students go to a lot of our plays. They go to major events in the middle school. They take pictures, they video, and they really transfer information around in more of a video format for all of our middle school students to see. Mr. Berkey and Miss Bennett run jazz band, 7th and 8th grade for Mr. Berkey, 5th and 6th grade for Mrs. Bennett, and jazz band helps out, and they are a part of our concert here in the spring. Our knitting club is a new club run this year by Miss Plesha. We have 13 students, and we've really had a nice turnout with this club. Again, this came from the student interest, and Miss Plesha is really fascinated with the skill level of the students that are attending knitting club. Mrs. Mahoney runs the Lego Challenge and the Lego Creators Club, and she averages 15 students 2 days a week. We have a very nice turnout. I see these students in the hallways in the mornings competing against one another and building with their Legos, and it's really a nice way for creativity, kind of like the makerspace in the elementary school, but with Legos in the middle school. Mrs. Conlon and Miss Vandeveld run the math club. We average about 6 students. Mrs. Plesha and Mrs. Sharp run the newspaper club. They've run the Tiger Times for the last few years, and they average around 12 students. And these students come around the building interviewing administrators, students, and teachers, and any new initiative they seem to be right on top of, and they share that through their publication of their newspaper. Safe Kids, which will be starting up soon. This is where we have teachers in the middle school talking about character and making good choices, and they bring students from the middle school to the elementary school to teach kindergartners, first, second, and third graders, and fourth graders about making good choices. And when I started teaching, I was a part of the Safe Kid program as a mentor, and it was nice to see the middle school students interact with the elementary school students. Scenery Club, which just started up, they're making props for our play, Shrek, so I don't have the current numbers on who is attending at this time. Spelling Bee Club, we had low enrollment again, and we would like to improve our enrollment come next year. Student Government, which is run by Mrs. Burns and Mrs. Cohen. These are the students that come in contact with other students, and they bring ideas to the student government, and then we act upon them. I do try to participate in every student government meeting, and a new proposal that they have is we have our new water filling stations in the middle school. We're very excited. We see a lot of interest from our students. They're filling up their bottles, saving on having to recycle because they're using those bottles over and over again. And the club actually came up with the idea of selling water bottles. So selling Putnam Valley Middle School water bottles, which the money will go into the student government fund, and they will use those water bottles as refillable. And my advice was if they all look the same, just to put their names on them. So I think it's a great initiative that they are going to bring to the middle school this spring. And finally, we have our yearbook club run by Ms. Tricala, and they meet at different points throughout the year, and they work on the yearbook. Mrs. Tricala is the advisor, and those students help to create that yearbook. I will tell you, we have had interest in a couple of new clubs for next year. One of those clubs is a trivia club. I run trivia in the middle school dining hall once a month, and I seem to come up with some very challenging questions. And students have had ideas to come up with their own questions. So I say, what a great idea for next year. They come up with the questions, They run trivia once a month. What better way to have a student-driven initiative to communicate with their classmates and to create? And the other club that is a possibility is called the Sunshine Club. And I'm really excited about this, and I heard that it had existed in the past, where we celebrate birthdays, students come around and leave nice notes about character with one another, and it really reflects the name Sunshine Club. So a nice idea to build in community and character throughout the middle school. I do apologize, I don't have pictures for these clubs, but I will tell you I post them weekly on Instagram. So if you go to our middle school website, you'll see the link for our Instagram, and I have pictures of the Go Green Club, I have pictures of the Lego Club, and clubs are a huge part of our middle school experience, and what better way than to have students interact with their teachers, with one another, in a creative way. Thank you.
Before you go, Ms. McCarty, you're referring morning, afternoon. If you don't have it now, how many of these, and you know where I'm going with this in terms of the late start time, how many of these clubs are morning clubs? I'm just curious.
Well, that's a good question. I would say the majority of these clubs run in the morning. I don't have an exact number for you, but I do have a printout here, and it is on our website for our club options.
Okay.
But the majority of our clubs do run in the morning. I would say probably 60% and probably 40% run in the afternoon.
Okay.
Thank you.
That's fine. Thank you.
Good evening. Chris O'Connor. I'm the assistant principal of the high school. I just wanted to kind of follow up on what Dr. Will said about the importance of clubs. I agree. You know, we offer a healthy amount of clubs for a school our size, and you know, studies have shown that students that participate in clubs and extracurricular activities, you know, perform better academically, have you know, better social experience at high school. And when I have been able to walk around the building and pop in on some clubs, it's always refreshing and nice to see the cross section of students that are in some of these clubs, grades 9 through 12. You know, working together and sharing something, you know, that they're passionate about. I'm going to talk about briefly, and I have an extra slide or two about some of the highlights and activities that have gone on so far this year. I have 23 clubs in this presentation. I do feel like I should mention, though, that I did not include the honor societies, which carry a different set of requirements to be in those honor societies, and you know, students that are in the honor societies for each discipline have to perform community service hours, usually through the form of tutoring, but instead I focused on the non-honor society clubs here. So as you can see, I also included a range of students based upon attendance at the weekly or bi-weekly meetings, however frequently they do meet. We have an art club run by Ms. Armbruster. I'll talk more later about some of their accomplishments. A coding club run by Ms. DeMaine. They meet every Monday. They do an hour of coding per week. Debate club run by Ms. Getman. If you ever walk up on the third floor, she often has posted what the next debate topic will be, so kids can do some research ahead of time or prepare, and also just kind of promote civil discourse and talking about controversial topics, which is a big issue going on today. The Environmental Club is a new club run by Mr. Lenhard. They have a pretty exciting thing on the horizon, which I'll talk about in a moment. The Film Club, Ms. Methin's Guitar Club, also a new club, Mr. Odell and Mr. Kunz. I've stopped by that one myself a couple times playing the guitar, and I'm happy to report that it's a really fun and interesting club. Again, you see students from all different ages and maybe different social circles kind of all coming together, and experienced players and beginners, and they're learning from each other and teaching each other, and it's a really nice group. The GSA, Gay Straight Alliance, run by Ms. Tarkington, one of their big events this year, I think they've combined with the film club to go attend the Broadway show Kinky Boots, which was a big event that they had a lot of positive feedback from the students from that trip. The History Club, run by Mr. DiGregorio. They've been up to a couple of things this year that I'll get to. And the Interact Club, run by Ms. Tarkington. They participated in Trunk or Treat, reading to elementary school kids around the holidays, and they also have a fundraiser planned for this April that they'll donate the money to St. Jude's. The Literary Magazine, Mr. Lathrop runs that, about 10 to 15 students. They have their spring edition coming out soon, and they attended an event. 9 students went down to WCC a week or two ago for a Young Authors Conference, and there was a student who I'll highlight on my next slide that actually got a piece published as part of their anthology. The Make a Difference Club, I have a few things to say about that, which I'll get to. Ms. Cephaloni does a tremendous job with that, and I have some highlights that I'll talk about. Mock trial actually was supposed to be running this year, but I recently found out that they were working with other schools in Putnam County in the past to hold events, and that has not come to fruition this year. So that has been canceled for the year, and we're hopeful that we can try and resume mock trial again next year and work with the other Putnam County schools to set up some competitions and kind of bring that back again. School newspaper run by Mr. Scampoli. They've published 2 editions at this point. They write articles, obviously student-driven. They write articles about local issues going on here, either here at the school or all the way up to national issues, commenting on the presidential election or whatever, other happenings going on coming out of Washington, D.C. or all around the world. SAD, run by Ms. Penta, 10 to 20 students. They're a very active club, particularly during Red Ribbon Month. There's also a display, which I'll highlight in a moment, that you all walked by this evening, whether you realize they're not, right out on the front wall and window area there. That's a big display that was put up by SAD. Stage crew has been obviously very busy recently on the Billy Elliot production, but I think it's worth noting that in addition to the amount of work that goes into creating the set for the plays each year, they also are here for all the other events in the pack, working as ushers, working with the lights and sound and all the other aspects. Student government, Mr. Scampoli has 13 executive members. Myself or Ms. Intreri do our best to make it to the student government meetings. They meet twice a month. We heard earlier tonight some of the things that they've been up to, and we're really excited about how they're working on taking issues that are important to the students and bringing it to the teachers, bringing it to administration, bringing it to the Board of Ed. The Tech Support Club is a new club run by Dan Mahoney. Really excited about this club. I remember when it first started, Dan was concerned or a little worried because I think 2 kids showed up to the first meeting. This was back in September, and they're up to 10 now. We have instituted a new help desk, so when teachers or anybody in the school is dealing with a technological issue that needs to be addressed, they submit it to the help desk, and when possible, if it's something that could be handled by one of our students, the students go out into the field, so to speak, to help fix the printer issues or the computers or whatever other problems that they're having out there. Temple Mental Club, run by Ms. Noto, has been just a real breath of fresh air. Very, I don't know if you've been to any of the events that they've been able to share their experience in terms of an a cappella singing group. Any events that we've had this year, when we open the upperclassmen lounge, sometimes they just will surprise us at the end of 9th period out in the main hallway there. As the bell rings and the kids are moving to the buses, there's Tempo Mental singing a song for everyone on their way out the door. But really talented group of kids. I know that every time they're around, Ms. Intreri or myself will capture some video and get it up on the web through social media so the community can see what they're up to. Then we have the 4 classes. Obviously, one of the big highlights every year is getting together for Color Wars. That would kind of be one of the key components behind what the class does. They have officers, but depending on the event, there's fundraisers. It's kind of not one set group of students, but when the class has to come together for a big event like Color Wars, you'll see them there. World Languages Club, run by Ms. Thornton. They meet every week. She's very passionate about this club, and they've hosted an international dinner, which is excellent. I was there. The food was delicious. They also recently was World Languages Week, and every morning on the announcements, there was one or more people that speak a foreign language to read a statement over the announcements. And so we heard people that were speaking Albanian and Japanese and Italian and all German, all these languages that we didn't realize people in the building could speak were participating in that. And finally, of course, the yearbook, which is a big endeavor that Ms. Albano does a nice job with every year. So I mentioned a few of these activities and events that have happened, but just to highlight some of the key things we've seen so far this year. I mentioned World Language History Club. Back in September, I believe it was on September 10th, there was the premiere of Lockdown, a 9/11 documentary that a former student who was in the History Club had worked on for many years, and it was kind of a project that the History Club worked on for over time, and it finally was premiered to the public here in the PAC. A few weeks ago, 22 students took a trip to Boston. They left very early in the morning. And were able to head, and they were lucky in the sense that it was before all the snow came, and we had some of those days where you felt like spring was coming, and they had a nice 60-degree day, and they were able to walk around Boston. They walked the Freedom Trail. They took a ton of pictures, learned a lot, and so that was a great experience for them. And they're also planning now their upcoming visit to the elementary school. Last year they went and taught the elementary school kids. They did a Founding Fathers project, and they're working on one for this year as well. The Art Club, I just wanted to point out that the annual ceramics fundraiser that they've been running for the last 9 years has now officially raised over $6,000. So I thought that was definitely worth noting. Literary Magazine, as I mentioned, they went to that Young Authors Conference recently, and Jacqueline Pedotti had a piece published there for all the schools and or the students that were represented there. They kind of compiled an anthology, and hers was selected. And Mr. Lathrop said as soon as he gets that link, he'll forward it along so we can all see. The Environmental Club is working with the Cornell Cooperative Extension. They have an office based out of Brewster to create the school's first vegetable garden this coming spring, and vegetables will be grown and donated to a local food pantry. So we're excited about that. Make a difference. So I probably could have done several slides just alone on the accomplishments of Make a Difference. You know, at this point in the year, you know, Ms. Cefaloni, as I mentioned, is really just amazing in terms of her dedication and passion when it comes to this club and how much good they do for the school and the community. I'll focus on Rachel's Challenge. Back in October, I believe it was, we had a member from the organization of Rachel's Challenge come to give an assembly. They were last here, I believe, I was told that 5 to 7 years ago they were here. All the hands up on the wall here that represents the last time they were here. Really excellent assembly, very powerful, a lot of kids. The feedback was tremendous from the assembly. They then went on to have several activities related to Rachel's Challenge. They did a food pantry collection, which wound up winning them $1,000 from the Cablevision's charity champion competition. Rachel's Garden, they went and planted back in the fall around 1,000 bulbs around the school and in the planters in the front by the parking lot. So once the snow goes away and it warms up, we will hopefully see this come to life. And Rachel's Mailbox, which was maybe one of the really just most touching you know, things that has happened this year in terms of the feedback and emails I saw after this. They worked to write over 300 letters to members of the K-12 community. Teachers, you know, administrators, bus drivers, custodians, anybody in the K-12 system, the Board of Ed, okay? And just really nice. It was, you know, a lot of really heartfelt emails I saw saying, you know, just thanking Ms. Cefaloni and the members, just saying how touching and heartwarming it was to receive those notes. Tech Core Club, I mentioned briefly, stage crew, newspaper said. Oh, the display you walked by is related to Kick Butts Day, an anti-smoking campaign, but that's, if you see all the shoes laid up on the wall out there and the posters, that's what that's referring to. And that's that.
Thank you.
I have questions for each one of them, but I'll start with you since you're the last one up.
Okay.
You talked about the yearbook club, but now, at least in the catalog, there's a yearbook production class. How are those two going to work together, or are they not?
I believe that the idea is to, because putting together a yearbook is quite a task, that it could, and I know other schools they've made it an elective, and so I believe the idea is, if indeed that moves on and becomes an elective or a class that can be offered, then it would no longer be considered a club.
That was my only question.
Okay. For others?
Yeah, I had one for Mr. McCarty. Is also similar. There's a newspaper club, but there's also the journalism class, which is publishing something. How are they working together or not?
Sure. So we do have the journalism class this year who did produce an electronic newspaper. At this time, they're not working together, but that could change in the future. And the difference between the two is the journalism class, which is a class that all 8th graders take, they devote a lot of time to their reports and their articles. In fact, a lot of administrators, teachers, and students have been interviewed across the district for the
It's a great
course.
piece. It's a great piece.
It is. And the club that's run by Ms. Plesha and Mrs. Sharp is more of a volunteer basis, so they don't have as much time interviewing, but their work is tremendous as well. And by the way, Ms. Rupo, I did count the number of clubs that meet in the afternoon, and it's 8 in the afternoon and
Whatever.
the rest in the
16
morning.
or whatever.
16.
Okay. Yeah.
60-40.
You were right.
Yeah. So.
I knew you knew.
And like I said, we're always open to students coming to us with ideas for new clubs.
Mm-hmm.
And if other clubs don't show as much participation, then maybe those clubs without the interest won't run in the future.
You know, and I noticed as I was listening to, starting with Ms. Mistretta, we have a nice build. You know, the musical obviously is a club in the elementary school, and it's more of an activity in the other school. But there seems to be a good build. Everybody's doing environmental awareness. They just call it different things. The only thing you don't have formally in the middle school that the other two do is something along the lines of kids of character make a difference. I know you do that all day long. You have something to say, I can tell.
I do. So we're working with Mark Weiss with Project Respect,
Okay,
and we're
perfect.
looking to start something
Great.
in the middle school for next year.
Great.
So we're very excited about that.
Because I know you do a lot of it, but that was the only thing that was glaringly empty when I know you do it, so that's perfect.
I became aware of that this year in my new role, and it's something we're going to work on.
Great, that's perfect.
I had one question for Mrs. Stretta. Simply, all the clubs are afternoon clubs? There's nothing in the morning?
No, all of our clubs run in the afternoon.
Okay.
Yeah. And Mrs. Odell's safety patrol, she meets with them at lunchtime.
And what is the difference between interact and make a difference?
Interact, oh.
I'll let you guys sit down,
If you
yeah.
want to chime in.
You work very hard.
Yes. There is a lot of overlap there, I
Which
would
is
say.
fine. I'm just curious.
And yeah, and so I would say that, you know, they do similar things for charity and raising money. And they also cooperate with each other on several events. I know that there are some events throughout the year where it's kind of make a difference and interact working together. But I could get back to you with kind of the mission statement behind each club.
I can help a little bit.
Okay.
I was just trying to assist.
Yep.
But Interact is connected with Rotary International.
Okay.
And so it has that connection. Even right now, Rotary doesn't exist in Putnam Valley as it did. But Rotary International is the sponsor, if you will, or, the main leader of Interact clubs throughout the
And they're
country.
both certainly well-attended, and you
Yeah.
can never have too much community
Exactly.
service and outreach.
Exactly.
So I was really just curious for myself, but
Yeah.
that's fine. Anybody else on the board have any question? All right, this is why our kids are the kids we have, because the interests are just extraordinary. And Ms. Carney, if you do get trivia off the ground, high school may want to borrow it, because I think that's, do it from a Jeopardy perspective or whatever. I think that would be really interesting. All right, thank you. Anybody else? Thank you very much. That was a very fun presentation.
Yes.
I enjoyed that, thank you.
Now comes Bill.
And you couldn't beat the pictures from the elementary school gentlemen, so nobody was going to be cuter than those elementary school kids.
What's really fun now is to see all of the Instagram and, all of the different social media clips that our administrators are putting online, and so that you can see things that are happening when they're happening. It's an exciting change to be able to see them.
So, Ms.
Thank you.
Figueroa, I'm going to give you a really good segue. Now we're going to talk about how we can pay for all those clubs.
Well, for those of you who were at the last board meeting or were listening to the last board meeting, it's a lot of the same information, but I want to go over the budget. I have a couple of new slides and some new information, but
And it's blue instead of orange.
and I've changed up the color because I think it was difficult to see last time. Okay. So, again, what's new? What are our new program and district initiatives? How are we preparing students for the future? And the budget is not just a collection of numbers, but an expression of our values and aspirations. So I'll go over again the program district initiatives included in this year's proposed budget. We have some district-wide initiatives which include world language expansion at the middle school to Mandarin Chinese, and a Children's Environmental Literacy Foundation, which is teaching students how to balance economic, social, and environmental systems. That'll be for grades K through 12, directly tied to our energy performance project. Continued innovative designs in education program for K through 12. International baccalaureate program starting up at the high school to be implemented possibly in 2019-20 for grades 11 and 12. Our active learning lab additions at the middle school for science and journalism. And the anticipated additional staff that's needed for some of this is 2.4 teaching positions at the high school, 3 positions at the middle school, a teaching assistant and a school monitor to support some of the programs at the middle school and to assist in lowering our class sizes. Also, a director of learning and innovative educational opportunities. There'll be 1 additional cleaner position needed at the high school in conjunction with the new high school schedule due to the lunch program being changed. So how do we balance the costs of these new initiatives and stay within the tax cap? We have expenditure changes and revenue highlights here. We have a reduction this year in our New York State retirement contribution rates for our teachers and non-teaching staff. We have 8 retiring teachers and 7 retiring non-teaching staff that will help pay for some of these program changes. The proposed budget also uses a bit of our fund balance to help balance revenues. We're going to be using some of our debt service reserve to help meet the obligation of debt payments. We'll be using some of the local retirement system reserve to help supplement the necessary retirement contributions for our non-teaching staff. The benefit and liability reserve will reflect the reduction due to our retiring employees. So those will come off of what we have as a year-end liability balance because they will no longer be with us. The use of our fund balance does lower our overall amount that we have in reserve, but it will be used to benefit and supplement the instructional portion of the budget in order to reduce class size and enhance some of our programs. Continued with those balancing of costs to support the initiatives are the tax cap information. I need to talk about, so the available CPI for our tax cap formula is 1.26%. That will kind of make our tax cap stay almost flat because over the last 2 years, we've had some declining debt, and using that percentage in the tax cap formula, the tax levy decrease over the prior year's proposed levy would be $69,143. In 2016-17, prior to the tax levy being adopted, the board was able to lower the final tax levy by $370,000 and relieve the local share of the burden to the taxpayers, totaling $650,000 in reductions over the past 2 years. So the newly proposed tax levy is an increase of $300,857. However, the levy remains lower than it was 5 years ago in 2013-14. I'll go on to explain more of how that all plays into our tax levy because it's more confusing than usual because of the lowering of the levy after we adopted the budget last year. So we also have an increased cost in health premiums by 8% that will impact the budget by approximately $400,000. There's natural increases in contractual bargaining unit contracts and cost increases for vendor contracts, materials, and supplies. As far as transportation goes, the district continues to serve particular transportation needs, and we're proposing that we finance 2 four-wheel drive vehicles that are necessary to replace some aging vehicles. The state allows the schools to utilize a 5-year note for purchasing vehicles, so that's what we would be proposing to do. Sorry about that. The wrong way. So our enrollment projections for next year. We have our current year's projections, our current year enrollment at 1,700. Then we do a 3-year and a 5-year averaging using live birth rates to do that. And they both came out exactly the same, it just, some of the grade levels came out a little varied. So 1,680 is the overall projected enrollment for next year, for 2017-18. And in the last row there was the average change in the grade level, per grade level. So overall, it's a decrease of 20 students, but it does vary in the grade levels, and as the grades move up, that controls, the changes in the different schools and how many students. So that leads me to the changes in our staff. We have 2.4 teachers that would be needed at the high school, 1 for science to reduce class size, 1 for ELA and film, coordination of current teachers for additional sections of the Achievement Center, and to allow for 9 periods, math, journalism, and film electives. 0.4 in Spanish, that will be shared with the middle school, so there would be a full-time Spanish teacher, but 0.4 would be used at the middle school and the other 0.6 at the high school. There's a 12-month office assistant retiring at the high school and would be replaced with a school calendar employee, which means they would only be here during the days that students are here. So that's a reduction in that staff position. At the middle school, the 3 teachers to address program and class sizes. I explained this at 0.6 Spanish teacher would be shared with the middle school. A 0.4 home and careers program to be brought back to the middle school. A 0.6 social studies teacher to address class sizes. A 0.8 ELA reading and writing addition general education lab 1 time a week, and a 0.6 special education teacher for reading to be shared with the high school. Additional staff would be the Director of Learning and Innovative Educational Opportunities, who would serve K through 12, a teaching assistant and a monitor position at the middle school for the active learning lab, full-time cleaner at the high school, and the replacement of the 8 retiring teachers and 7 non-teaching positions. So in our budget, we have our revenues, and the 4 categories of revenues we discuss are each year and have to report on are the school taxes, the state aid, other category of revenue, and our appropriated fund balance. School taxes are driven by a formula also known as the tax cap. The CPI, or Consumer Price Index, used to develop the tax cap for 2017-18 is 1.26%. This formula will yield an increase in the tax levy of $300,857. Showing sustainability, the levy remains lower than it was 5 years ago, despite the increase in the levy. The state aid, 50% of our aid is expenditure-driven, 50% is formula-driven. Districts statewide are hoping for the reinstatement of foundation aid. The legislatures are asking for the return of foundation aid in its original form instead of the modified form, which has been proposed by the governor. And I believe April 1st, we're expecting a budget. Maybe we'll have some more information on aid by then. The revenue includes sources such as interest earnings, out-of-district tuitions, building use, and some refunds for prior year's expenses. And again, our appropriated fund balance, which will help support our revenues from the Employees Benefit and Liability Reserve, the Employees Retirement Reserve, and the Tax Certiorari Reserve. Then we have the 4 categories of expenditures for the 2017-18 budget. Our general support area of the budget includes district and business functions, changes in personnel and technology needs, our instruction portion of the budget. So there we have some retirements that can help reduce some salaries in future years, but we have to remember our labor contract considerations, and they will increase, higher BOCES program cost, and again, due to the higher health cost premiums, those costs for the BOCES programs will probably increase, and the additional IT upkeep that the district requires. 5.4 new teaching positions and the Director of Learning and Innovative Educational Opportunities, as well as new program offerings. In the transportation area, we have an increase of 1% in the home-to-school contract with our contractor, Montauk Bus Company, which is under a 5-year contract right now. This is the second year we're in now. It could also be impacted by our piloted mid-year change to a later start time at the high school. And our benefits area of the budget, again, health premiums are increasing by 8%. That's about a little over $400,000 for the district. Our employer contribution rate is reduced for the New York State Teachers Retirement System, and cost considerations for any affordable care impacts and additional salary impacts, in other words, like payroll taxes, could impact the benefit area as well. So here are revenues. I've posted up there the approved budget for over the last 3 years. The budget that's being proposed for 2017-18 for a total of $48,544,139. Overall, the budget is an increase of $600,877, or 1.25%. If you look at the line regarding real property tax, we had a proposed decrease over last year's proposed tax levy, but after the tax levy was decreased in August, just prior to the bills being issued, by $370,000, when you compare the proposed for next year and the actual levy that was reduced, we have an increase in the levy of $300,857, or 0.84%, under 1%. Then we have our expenditures. In comparison, this year to last year, again, the budget increased 1.25% for a total budget of $48,544,139. Again, lower than it has been in the last 5 years. This slide is just a comparison of the budget, the tax levies, and the use of the fund balance. What I've done is the chart that I believe Mr. Spittle asked to see from the last meeting, which was our 10 years. This chart indicates that the tax levy decreases while use of our fund balance increases steadily. Use of the fund balance is another way of returning taxpayer dollars when it's feasible. And the proposed tax levy and budget are both less than proposed 5 years ago in 2013-14. So you can see the budget in 13-14 was $48.6 million, and this year proposed for 2017-18 is $48.5 million. In 2013-14, the tax levy was $35.8 million, and in 2017-18 proposed at $35.7 million. Our use of fund balance has actually decreased from last year because we added the $370,000 in August to, well, because we reduced the tax levy by $370,000 last August. It increased our reliance on the fund balance to $1.8 million, and this year our use of fund balance is $1.6 million. So between 2008-9 and 2017-18, that 10-year span, we ranged from $350,000 use of fund balance to $1.8 million. So we've certainly been using our fund balance. Fund balances cannot withstand sustained use without decreasing a healthy level of fiscal fitness. So the use of fund balance may have to decrease to protect future fund balance. So that's something we should look at going forward. In other words, if we do not have similar surpluses in budgets going forward, our overall fund balance will decrease. So what happens if the budget doesn't pass? This is a new slide that I added due to the fact that we should review the possibility always of a contingent budget. So if a budget doesn't pass, the board has to decide whether they want to propose the same budget for a revote in June, a new budget proposal altogether, or adopt a contingent budget. A contingent budget, in all school districts, the state school budgets are determined by qualified voters of the school district, and in the event that the voters reject a proposed budget, the Board of Education is empowered to levy a tax sufficient to defray the cost of the items specifically authorized by statute, and the cost of those items determined by the board to constitute ordinary contingent expenses. In addition, Section 2023 of the Education Law places a computed dollar cap on the administrative component of the budget. All non-contingent items of expenditure must be removed from a contingency budget, and the tax levy proposed cannot be greater than the prior year's tax levy. Health and safety must be maintained. Determining which items fall under ordinary contingent expenses rests with the Board of Education. It is also possible that some ordinary contingent expenses would have to be reduced or eliminated in order to meet the tax levy requirement. In other words, in order for the tax levy to stay flat, some examples of that could be extracurricular activities, some interscholastic athletics, transportation, mileage limits, or perhaps a combination of those. In addition to our budget, there will be a proposition on the ballot for the energy performance contract, known as Proposition Number 1. If the proposition is approved by the voting process, 10% additional aid for the project, approximately $600,000, would be given to the school district. So the energy performance contract is what we consider reducing our carbon footprint, and the energy performance contract will allow the district to upgrade the facilities with more efficient equipment while financing the new equipment with generated energy savings that the project will generate. Some of the highlights include the following. There'll be solar photovoltaic rooftop systems. Those are solar panels on the middle school, high school, and elementary school bus garage roofs. New window upgrades at the elementary school in the 1962 and 1935 wings. new LED lighting throughout the district, a geothermal heat pump system at the elementary school to significantly reduce reliance on oil at that school. There would still be some oil use. Upgrade of the building management system at each of the schools. That's the temperature monitoring that is done with our with computers. The project will generate over $384,000 in annual savings, and as previously mentioned, it will pay for the project cost over the 15-year finance term. This means that there will be no cost to the district taxpayer to have the energy performance contract put into motion. As an incentive, the district will receive an additional 10% in aid if the voters approve the proposition at the vote in May. So as far as the voting goes, there'll be a budget vote, there'll be a vote for a trustee and the proposition for the energy performance contract on May 16th at the Putnam Valley Elementary School between 6 a.m. and 9 p.m. There'll be absentee ballots available until there'll be absentee ballots available. Yeah, until the day prior to the vote. They must be received by the clerk at by 5 p.m. on the day before. On May 16th, the absentee ballots have to be in by 5 p.m. The trustees, there's one position open on the board. Monday, April 17th, last day to submit a petition to run for the board. And there will be two propositions on the ballot again, the general operating budget and the energy performance contract. And does anybody have any questions? Oh, in addition to the presentation, which will be online, there are also some handouts that we have in the office, district office, on the budget summary. And at the next meeting, which we hope to adopt the budget at, we'll have a full-length, detailed line item budget available for the public. Does anybody have any questions on the budget?
So you're taking lots of notes, everybody.
I mean, I guess I heard correctly that the tax levy is actually less than it was 5 years ago. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So I simplistically have to ask, how is this done with all the increases that we've had to deal with the health costs increasing and salaries do go up and services I know that we've increased and improved. And so, I mean, nothing in my life really costs less than it did 5 years ago. And so I'm wondering, really, what is the main idea of how this is possible?
A number of things happening. Of course, we have some careful spending. But in addition to that, I mean, we have been utilizing our fund balance. In other words, any kind of reserves that we have are staying at a healthy level, but we're also able to generate the budgets each year and have surpluses that have been generated that have created these fund balances, which are from taxpayer dollars, they're from state aid, it's a combination, and putting that back into the budget to reutilize it and reappropriate it back out to the public without using new local dollars. So that's how we're able to do that, and it's just important to keep in mind that we have to keep a fiscal fitness in mind for going forward and not to lower the fund balances too much.
I think it's just fantastic. But
I'll comment for a minute. Yeah, to have this presentation following the presentation on all the wonderful things we offer our kids in this school, to kind of, one of the criticisms of a small district is that we can't offer a breadth of opportunity and experience for kids, and we fill that theoretical void through our clubs, and we offer so many fantastic things in this school, and to do it with a decrease in the tax levy, it makes me proud. And And you know, it's not the board. It's Jill. It's Fran. It's the past administrators, all the administrators, past and present, that really work hard to do more with less, or the same. And yeah, it's fantastic.
Jill, I have just a couple of, just so I can articulate, people ask me questions. Slide number 11, proposed revenue.
Okay.
So the fourth, the local non-tax sources. Seeing that increase by 25% is a good thing, correct? That means
It is.
we're
So these
getting-
are our revenues. So this is
Right.
all money coming in, but that's increasing. I mean, that category is a little bit volatile because
Sure.
it can change. It's got tuitions in there from
Right, for
out-of-district
special education,
students, and
out-of-district
so that's
students,
not
those kind of
never a
things, right.
guarantee. What we do see positive is increasing interest rates. We have a new tool we've been able to utilize through one of our investment banks, New York Class, which has reinstituted its investing practices. So that had gone away for a number of years, and it has recently returned. So we have taken full advantage of investing in that and trying to get a better return.
And on the same slide, and just, so if we want to look at how much more money we're spending, full budget to budget expense, that's 1.25%. That's correct?
Right.
That's the last line. But the tax levy increase, and I know it's complicated because
Right.
from the last budget, we proposed more, but it is, as at this point, 0.84.
0.84% over what we actually levied
Yes.
on the tax bill
Right,
last year,
right,
And that is
this year.
right. Not over what we proposed,
And that's
actually,
less
but
than
over
our
what we
10-year average of an increase is 0.94% over 10 years, even though it's gone down in 5. So that's even less than our 10-year average increase.
Right.
And is also below the CPI in the last, so in real dollar terms, I know I always
like a
harp
businessman.
on this, but in real dollar terms, it's a significant reduction in the tax levy.
And are we in about year 7 of the tax cap? 6,
2011, right? Was it 2011?
About 6, okay.
10, 11?
I think it was
Okay.
10, 11.
I was just curious. Right, okay.
I had a few
Those are my
questions.
questions.
Sorry, I had a few questions. CPI is 1.26. Our current proposed levy is 0.84. What's the cap? What's the percentage of the cap? I mean, what is the levy cap?
The levy cap, if we
What would be the max?
wanted to go to the maximum, it is 0.96, I believe. 0.95, 0.96. So we're just under that.
Okay. And because we've kind of learned from the past, are we being a little bit more conservative on our estimates from state aid? Because we did have, number one, we had the BOCES issue where they had an error, but other than that, the numbers that actually show up on those, on the runs are not necessarily what we actually end up getting.
Right.
And they came up short recently. So are we taking that into account as we project what you've got in here as state and federal
Yes,
sources?
absolutely. It may come in a little bit more favorable on April 1st. But again, even at this point in time, taking that into consideration, that those figures are never what we actually get. And it's not just because they estimate wrong to say that. It's because, you know, we have student, they base our aid for like high-cost students and things like that on students that were here 2 years ago. So not always is that the case where they stay in-house. And so we have to take all of that into consideration all the time.
So when, you know, oftentimes new runs come out, or then when a revised run comes out.
Throughout the year.
So it's not uncommon for it to look like, oh, we're going to get 35% more aid, when in actuality that's never the case.
Right.
Proposition 1, the $600,000 in additional state aid, that is payable annually over the course of the 15 years past the
Exactly.
completion of the event? So
Right,
that's
it's
about
50,
40,
it's
40
between 45 and 55,000,
Per
depending
year.
on the cost of the project. Right now, the cost of the project is like 6.9 million. So those vendors and those contractors we don't have final, bids on that stuff yet. So.
That's per year in
Right.
additional aid if the taxpayers vote yes on Proposition 1.
That's correct.
And just as an aside, budget-wise, and we were and we saw it on some of the pictures, I think, as well. The all room furniture is amazing. It should be pretty much in every classroom. The idea, I know it's such a simple thing. They're just simple triangles on wheels and chairs on wheels, as opposed to the desk that is connected to a chair and you're locked in and it's not easy to move around. We were in their interviews, and the flexibility you had to how to formulate a room into groups. You could create one long table, you could create whatever you want. I just thought that situation shouldn't just be thought of as an active learning lab, but active learning in any classroom. It really made a difference, and I know that's a physical issue as far as a physical plan.
But we could have us, move towards.
Well, that's what they're doing.
As
As
they
we replace
them,
classroom
yeah.
furniture, they're looking at getting the detached
Yes.
chair desk combination opposed to
Which
the old-fashioned.
gets back to kind of our roots, because if you look at, I remember now 7 years ago when we did the anniversary celebration, a lot of the research that I had done when I pulled the original newspaper article for when the district was founded, the creation of the Putnam Valley desk, which was groundbreaking in 1935. Where it was not fixed to the ground. You could actually move desks around. They were created and they were original to Putnam Valley School District. So we were forward-thinking progressive back in 1935, and the desks were not fixed to the floors. The first district, as far as the story says, that did that, and this would just be continuing that.
Talk about trivia. You need to give that piece of trivia to Travis and see what was got out now. All this viewership we have.
That's great. I had no idea about that.
I was amazed when I read that. I had to read it like 5 times, just like, because they referred to them when they sold them the catalog to other schools. There's the Putnam Valley desk.
Really?
That's exciting.
An engineering marvel.
Engineering marvel where it wasn't.
1935.
You weren't bolted down to the ground.
They still have ink holes, though.
They probably.
They had to.
I think there are pictures that go along with that article. So.
All right. Anybody have anything else for Ms. Figueroa?
Well, anything else about the budget? Because I have one more thing to talk about, which is the newsletter. So we have sent out, again, 2 electronically generated newsletters for people to, for the community about the school district regarding anything and everything that's been going on since the beginning of the school year. Historically, we send out a budget newsletter, which is only one time a year, so this would be the first year that we're doing more than one. I'm going to recommend that we stick with the electronic newsletter for the budget. We have to, by mandate of the state, send out a 1-sheet piece of paper that says it's a budget notice. It gives a lot of facts and figures about the budget.
That make no sense.
Tax cap information that it's just mandated for us to send out. It isn't necessarily plain English, but it's what every district has to send out. So there'll be a reverse side to that, and on that it would be tri-folded, and then on and somewhere on there we would have where they could go to get the electronic information on the budget. Instead of doing a 4-page, very elaborate, very expensive newsletter, I don't know that everyone is on board with that idea, and I want to make sure before we would to move ahead with it.
The only thing that I would like to, been thinking about it, that this energy performance contract is really something I'm
Big deal.
excited about. It's probably one of the biggest things we've done, and nobody knows about it out there. So if there's, I'm fine with talking about that on your trifold brochure somewhere that talks about it being an exciting thing that they can look at. But I'd also like the electronic backup of that too, to have some details on what that entails, because I mean,
that's new.
people don't even know. I mean, this geothermal here on this campus is what, 13, 14 years old now. We haven't used any oil here in 13 years, and
16.
and nobody knows that. 16. When I tell people, they're like, "What are you talking about?" I said, "Well, we don't use oil on the campus at all, zero." And to add this photovoltaic and the other wonderful things we're doing in the geothermal at the elementary school, it's a huge upgrade in reduction in our carbon footprint, and we need to shout about it so people do know. And other than me telling everybody I see, we need to get the word out.
Right, so I think that could be part of, no, without an issue.
Yeah, because it would be really the explanation of the second proposition.
Right.
So it would belong on that.
That's why.
That would be on there anyway, but we could definitely highlight it with some additional information. And it was in the last electronic newsletter. We did put a lot of information out about it already. I know I've been talking about it. Pat Papolino came and talked about it at the meeting. We had a few presentations, but yeah, in order to reach everyone, I think it is a really important bit of information that people need to know about.
But you're recommending going to a smaller print version rather than a large print version? Is that your recommendation?
Well, not a smaller version, just an electronic version, opposed to a 4-page newsletter that is about the budget. Rather, we have 4 pages that go out now electronically.
I was saying you're not talking about doing a 4-page print newsletter to everybody.
No, well, we would print enough copies to put at the senior center, at the library, at the town hall, at all of the 3 schools, any other significant locations you can think of. We do that now. We only put a few in each of those places. Obviously, budget season is the more, informed. People are more interested in reading about it and knowing what the figures are, and we would put more of them there for people to be able to obtain. We also put out a postcard in the fall and space on our website where people can write in to get the
email list.
The newsletters electronically. We've had about 70 responses to that, so those people have been added, and more are coming. That's recent. So, and again, the cost savings for the newsletter, they do automatically get disseminated to all the parents when we do it this way too, the parents in the school district.
And it's posted on our website.
And it's on the website.
What about the
also.
media? Is there a press release that we do?
So we could do a press release on the energy performance contract.
That's what I'm thinking.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Can I, just for a general amount of approximately how much did it cost when in the past we've sent out a mailing, a 4-page?
About $2,500
Oh.
in just for the one mailing, So
Would that be
we've saved
less?
quite a bit doing them this way. And I don't know what everyone else, what you think, but I think the budget newsletters have been, they're in color, they're very accessible. You can go back to them. I know a lot of times you get them in the mail, you don't look at it, you throw it away, it gets mixed up with something. So this is always available for people too, to go to and get the information.
And
when
the
it's online
video
like that.
explanation of you going through the budget is linked on the website.
Yes.
Yes.
So that's always available in detail.
Right.
My concern is the issue of those folks who complain more along the lines of they're not always getting that mail. Or they don't get, the general, if you just do the post office box or, the resident mail. And that was an issue that we faced last year, where we wanted to make sure that we got into people's homes or to where they were if they weren't at home because of forwarding, and they don't do forwarding on those mails. So
On bulk mailing, no.
so the idea, well, it's not necessarily just on bulk mail. It's the way we do bulk mail. It's just it's not named. You don't have a name and address on
resident.
those. It's just resident. If you had a name and address on them,
Right.
That bumps it up to about $1 a piece.
so
rather
yeah,
than
it's
25 cents.
just my concern is how not helpful that mandated document is in telling the story, because sometimes it can look like you're raising taxes by 40% when you're not doing anything like that, because of the way the numbers that you have to use in the document. And the argument, the reason why I believe we did it last year was it gave context to that mandated document, and those mandated numbers could essentially, not that it was two different sets of numbers, it was actually accurate numbers as opposed to the numbers that
Right,
they're
it
forcing you to
gave an
show.
explanation to what was on the reverse
So
side of
my
the paper.
concern would be that if we cut back and don't do that, and I love the did you know stuff that goes along with that, which talks about all the value-added stuff that the district does, which like the club stuff or that type of thing. I'm concerned that we lose that stuff and we're victims to a state-mandated document without telling our story. So, I mean, that's my concern. It depends on what you do on the flip side, but if we're going to be talking about Proposition 1 as well, there's not a lot of space to go into context.
True.
So that would be my main concern.
I think what we do is we let Joe put together this one-page document, which we'll see fairly shortly. And then if, going on what you were saying, Joe, if we think we need more, we can quickly add the other pages and the other information.
Because you're
If we-
putting together a 4-page, it's just going to be electronic.
Yeah, we are.
So,
So if we don't think it tells the right story,
And it's
then we
not-
can add all.
And then we
the
can
whole-
quickly go with that 4-page, print it out and just distribute
Well,
it.
it's
Quickly,
it's
quickly is
a mailing is a major
Yeah.
I know,
enterprise.
but-
Takes about a week at least,
But
right?
we still have
To-
time before May.
no, I
you
mean
know.
you're going to make you're going to do the newsletter anyway, but
Right.
to get it has to go to the printer, and it has to there's a
Yeah,
a
but
folder-
certainly the one page, I understand what you're saying. Certainly the one page is, it's got to be prepared regardless of,
That's right.
you know, and what we
But it has to
decide
be
to
done
put
before
on
budget
that
day, so-
would be,
Well before.
what we decide to put on that could be telling or not telling, and that could make the decision one way or the other, what
When do we
wanna
have that
decide to do.
information from? How soon do we get that information? Because they tell us what we have to put on that form.
When we
on that
decide,
sheet.
when the board decides to adopt a budget, then those figures can be finalized. So that would be at the next meeting, April 6th.
But do we get, is that?
So I'm prepared to fill those numbers in now.
So then my recommendation would be.
Yeah, we're gonna
Take our
start
number
designing
that we're
it
looking
now.
at right now and let us see what that
Absolutely.
page would look like,
with
you know.
with the story
Right.
of the
Yeah, we're gonna start putting it together now, that's why I'm talking about
Because
it
we're
now.
still mailing it.
that would
There's
That
still a
piece we
mailing.
have to mail.
Yes.
There's still a mailing, so there's
Yes, there
still
is.
time of our staff being together. Just a matter of what are we mailing
Right.
becomes a question.
Right, I don't know that it adds more time to the process if you're creating something. It's just a matter of, the printer would have to do a 4-page fold as opposed to just one
We are
page.
the printer and we are the producer of the whole newsletter, so we
So you
don't,
do all
we
the
no
printing
longer
here.
farm anything out, no.
Okay.
When you first started talking, the first voice in my head said, I hate only electronic, because you still hear people that say, I don't. I don't look
And
at
I've
it.
been wrestling with it myself. I just know that, we want to go with green initiatives. We want to have a positive approach to spending. And I think that's where people are moving towards electronic, so I just think it's a way that we need
But
to look forward. But maybe
But
this
We
year.
do need to remember that we have
The
a
proposition,
number of
yeah.
65-plus-year-olds that only go to the
True.
library to get their electronic mail and
And-
don't have a computer at
And
their
the
home.
pendulum is starting to swing back the other way as digital, as everybody gets inundated with digital,
You break through with mail.
you break through with mail.
Yes.
This is, it's a new.
I'm
trend
glad
going back to-
because my business is direct mail. That's what I do. So
You're happy
I'm
about
glad
this
that
piece
the
of
glut of that onslaught of digital brings people back
To regular mail?
because my mailbox is not nearly as full as
But
it
you as
used
an
to be.
environmentalist have an issue with the
So
trees.
they use recycled paper. That's the.
But we are so green, I think,
Yeah.
most of the time. But I'm not, so my gut instinct is send it. I like the reminder, I like the 4-page, I do.
Okay.
Yeah, sometimes it reminds me to look at my email.
Yeah.
Because we all know how awful I am with email. So,
Okay.
but you
In the
can
meantime,
design-
I will put together
design
the
and
one
then we can
page, you can
decide.
go yay or nay and decide,
Yep,
like,
good.
we really hate it or it's okay.
Can
and
we
let
have
me
the
know.
default position of being the big mailing rather than the smaller one?
I think that the default position should be the big mailing, and if we think the smaller mailing is good enough, then
adequate, then
we
we
cut
switch
back
to
to
that.
that. That's
Okay.
Plan B, I think.
That's fine.
That's, I just.
Yeah.
So
Just
we really-
another point that we might want to make, trying to push it further. We just started doing the newsletter again, I think, in like 2013 or around that time. And we weren't doing one for a number of years. I really know that the vote counts haven't really changed. Didn't affect. But just as another piece of information, I do know that, so.
Well, we did prior to, there was one where we thought it was a close call. And that was when our piece of paper was simply that piece of paper, then that year it was just a handful of years ago. I can't remember specifically, and I'm not talking about the winning by 2 votes one. I'm talking about when it was still, not as close as that, but still close. And it was a big question of, there were questions about that number, because the numbers looked really weird on that document that went out. You had a lot of community pushing back that it looked like we were raising taxes by like easily 15, 20%.
That was back in that we won by 2 votes was 2005.
Right, so I'm talking
And
since
our
then.
defeat budget was
something happened.
2006.
Yeah, that happens in years when we move money into the general fund to cover debt service and we might have a project going on, and so then the next year there is like a huge decline.
Right, it was after
in the way that it looks.
It was after the security. I think it was after the
Right.
security project, the fields, where the next year or that year that form looked like crazy.
Right.
So I don't think it helps us to. I'm not to belabor the point. I just think that we should go with the.
Because the form isn't clear, I understand.
And
Okay.
I absolutely don't think it's a matter of voting. I think it's our one time a year, it's a PR piece to the non-school stuff.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so that's all I have for tonight.
But we're open to not going the form, right? Isn't that what I'm hearing? Okay. We're open. We're going to stay open-minded. We are a very open-minded board.
Oh.
Mostly. Mostly. I just X'd out of the whole thing, so. I guess we're up to superintendent report,
Yes.
correct?
Yes. Just a few important matters, I think. I don't know if we did announce a valedictorian and salutatorian here. But
Oh, we did.
we did, but I would say it again. Mariana Silva is the valedictorian. Katoy Abe is our salutatorian. So we are very proud of these young women and what they have accomplished.
Absolutely.
In fact, recently at the Science Research Fair, the WESF, the Westchester Fair, Mariana Silva was one of our fine contestants. She was one of the first in that program. And 8 of our 11 contenders at the WESF Fair did receive awards. This was in a huge competitive environment with school districts from all around, from Westchester and Putnam. So our science research project is alive and well, and it's a very exciting place for students who are learning together and developing a community of learners around investigation, inquiry, and research.
A lot of them scored cash.
Yes, some
I
of them
mean,
scored
those
cash.
awards were cash.
Exactly.
It wasn't just a medal.
No.
They got cash for their
Yes,
work.
yes. And there were a lot of proud parents there as well. I want to just do a shout out to our Destination Imagination program. We still have this program, and it's one of those programs that really needs support to continue to thrive. And it's one of those places where students who love to create, who are imaginative, and advisors and parents who want to help them gather together. And it's a problem-solving process. It's very creative. I've been involved in them in the past and see this as a wonderful initiative for a district, and I hope we can keep it going. We had a terrific elementary team, the Pizza Panthers. We had the support beams at the elementary, and a middle school team of 6th and 7th graders. And it would be nice to keep this going. Liz Broas has been very active in making that happen. I wanted to mention that we'll have our Putnam County 2017 Youth Award program on April 7th, and Joseph Delabate and Kayla McCahey will be provided an award for their service, for their community service. And Miss Intrieri is going, and also I believe Mr. Smith is accompanying her to that.
Yes.
And it's a wonderful way to support the good work of our students and in the community. I also did want to mention that March 30th, Senior Citizen Night here for the Billy Elliot, and the dinner that's provided by our Make a Difference Club, and one of those traditions, again, that brings in the community and brings the community to our school and shows to the senior citizens what they're investing in, what their taxes bring them in a positive way. There's something for them here, and they're welcome, and we want them to feel invited and part of what we do, and we appreciate their support of our schools. I also wanted to mention that on what was last Friday, we had, on March 17th, we had a pretty remarkable community event in the community circle that was held here. Again, and the all room, in that room with the wheels, the chair at the wheels and the tables, a wonderful way for people to, to move into different groups and to discuss, how we ensure that we have a respectful environment for everyone here, that everyone is welcome, everyone is treated with dignity. And we had a wonderful community turnout, parents, and we had students, faculty. We had Mr. Smith was there representing the board. And it was a very powerful, I thought, a powerful experience. Sandy Intrieri, the principal, and I facilitated it. We had met with Peter Nelson of Facing History a while before. That program deals with how history can be seen as a way to help us understand our current environment, our current situation, and how we can learn from history. And he had some wonderful ideas for activities, and we did implement one of the silent debate activity, which was quite effective. Mr. Lathrop contributed a wonderful poem which talked about the power of words, the power of language, how language can hurt. We know that with social media, there is a tremendous exploitation of that notion of what words can do, and we see our students suffering with this and struggling with this. So it was quite powerful to have members of our community struggling with these ideas and coming up with some initiatives that we hope we can move with in the future. Unfortunately, we had to cancel some of our other events that we had for that day because we made it a full day of school. We had so many snow days last week. So we will hold those other workshops, which our teachers will facilitate. We have a superintendent's conference day at the end of the year, at the end of the school year. We hope to bring those back. So
I just want to say, Dr. Wills, it was really a wonderful event. And it really is an event where people got together struggling to deal with things that happen that tend to be negative, and talk about some of the difficult struggles that we have in this time of social media, and talk about some of the poor decisions that people have made, young people, adults, etc., and how to deal with them. And it just strikes me as such a contrast at the meeting here when we see a lot of wonderful things. And I would urge everyone to not forget either side of that coin. There are difficult issues to deal with, but then we see wonderful young people like we do, just doing wonderful things. And you mentioned Joe Delabate. Here's a young man who's getting an award. He's not looking for an award, but he works at the food pantry here in Putnam Valley. He's, I don't know if Joe is bilingual or is just darn good at Spanish, but he helps when people need bilingual support, and just does it out of the goodness of his heart. And that's just, Joe's not the only one, although he's a great example of the wonderful things that we hear going on. So it was really, I thought the presentation that we saw was a wonderful one, and we struggled with a lot of difficult issues, but it's also wonderful to see these positive things at the same time. We have to pay attention to both sides of the coin like that.
And one of the
Thank
things,
you for that.
one of the things that is really special about the district is how the high school and the elementary school kids connect, so that the science fair, for example, where we had Mr. Hoare take his science honor students to help the younger students with the projects. And that connection is very powerful. And then Musical, the musical, which is so terrific over at the elementary school, to see the high school students running the lights, the tech, helping them out. I mean, this is what community means. This is what it's about, and that cross-generational, and then we come to the graduation, and we have now the students going through the halls, and there's a sense of a legacy and a connection that I think is particularly powerful in a community such as ours, and that people do appreciate. That's it.
All right, I'd like to, if there's anybody from the PTA, PGSA, now I'd like to open it up to public contribution on anything on the agenda items.
Dan, you have anything?
Okay, so now, moving along to new business, trying to maintain form.
May I say something?
Please do.
You're done.
No,
one more
public
thing.
contribution? Okay, she's a public.
You know the gentleman who started the Gong Show, remember with the...
Yeah, he died.
He just
Yeah.
passed away,
First.
so where's the cane?
Oh.
Right, or the gong.
Oh,
But, no.
Notably trivia obituary.
But, I did want to mention that we are having these very important interviews right now in our district for the Director of Learning and for the Assistant Principal at the middle school, and a tremendous outpouring of members of the community, parents, teachers at these interviews, and they've been going very, very well. We've seen some very strong candidates with a lot of potential, again, to bring something special to the district.
And having, I sat in on one of them then with Mr. Smith, and I think Ms. Furrow sat in the other. I will. You distracted me now, I lost my train of thought. No, one of the first questions we asked is, what brought you to interview for this position? Why are you coming to Putnam Valley? Our name's getting out there. I mean, the Putnam Valley name, everyone mentioned the laptop programs, everyone mentioned our performances. We keep talking about being poised on the brink of greatness. I think we're moving over. We're coming closer to the end. So, I mean, we think we're great already, but I think we're extraordinary. And that's why we push for the rigor and the performance, and also why we don't just celebrate what we do well, but as Mr. Smith said, we look at where our struggles are. So they were very interesting, and we all sat there being proud to be part of Putnam Valley when they would talk about how wonderful we were. It's nice to hear it from somebody else. And do you want to talk about the fact that anybody who watched 60 Minutes saw Mrs. Ferrara on it last Sunday? Unfortunately, I turned it on at the last minute. She looked fabulous. So
I texted everyone.
You got it. We saw it.
And that was on her work.
Yes, with the new Sesame Street puppet
right.
that happens to be autistic,
Right.
and really in-depth knowledge of the subject and everything, and very proud. And I would say that I think Mr. Ferraro, you outkicked your punt coverage. Your wife has greatly achieved there, and you should be very proud. You're a very lucky man.
For those who missed it, if you go to 60-minute overtime, there's that and much more about it.
I can watch it again? Okay.
Yes.
Good. Did you get mine?
Very
Great.
nice.
And it's the
Thank you.
what season? The third?
It is the 48th.
48th season. That's unbelievable. Okay.
She's been there since season 25, which is hard to believe.
Wow.
Anyway.
And they have broken new ground in so many, introducing children with disabilities, Down syndrome, autism, wheelchairs, and make it just be part of the fabric of childhood, which is wonderful. Okay. And let's move on to new business.
You almost read that.
I almost read it, got a little carried away. Go ahead, Mr.
You had
Farrar.
to say number one.
I meant to say number one, and I will now. Number one.
Resolved on the recommendation of the superintendent of schools to accept the resignation of Lorinda Correa from her position of teacher aide effective March 26, 2017, as per document number 183/17, to be appointed to a 4-year probationary term as a teacher assistant commencing on March 27th, 2017 and terminating on March 27, 2021 in the teaching assistant tenure area at an annual compensation rate of $32,800, step 11 of the CSEA salary schedule, prorated and in accordance with the PVCSD policy 9250. Ms. Correa holds teaching assistant level 1 certification.
Second.
Questions or comments?
And that's why I'll never be interviewed on 60 Minutes.
All in besides that, all in favor? Aye. Number two.
Resolved on recommendation of the superintendent of schools to accept the resignation of Kathleen Bianco from her position of teacher aide effective March 26, 2017, as per document number 184/17, to be appointed to a 4-year probationary term as a teacher assistant commencing on March 27, 2017, and terminating on March 27, 2021, in the teaching assistant tenure area at an annual compensation of $26,000, step 1 of the CSEA salary schedule, prorated and in accordance with the PVCSD policy 9250. Ms. Bianco holds teaching assistant level 1 certification.
Second.
Questions or comments? All in favor? Aye. Number three.
Whereas statistics, experience demonstrate that the greatest danger to our youth in Putnam County and throughout our country are the dangers posed from traffic crashes, and whereas highway crash statistics inform us that although teen drivers make up only 7% of the driving population, they comprise 18% of the injury-related automobile crashes, and whereas the leading cause of accidental deaths to our youthful population throughout the United States are automobile accidents, and whereas analysis shows us that the reasons for teen overrepresentation in the injury-related automobile crashes include driver inexperience, excessive speed, unnecessary risk-taking, inattentive driving, and the use of alcohol and drugs. And whereas in Putnam County we have too often experienced a tragedy with the death of a teen driver at the wheel, many of these deaths have occurred during the spring and summer months, with high incidence rate occurring the period leading up to prom season. And whereas all accidents are preventable and crash rates can be lowered through the use of education and awareness programs, through the use of our school system, law enforcement programs, and youth service organizations such as Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, Junior RTC programs, and the Civil Air Patrol, just to name a few. And whereas these programs work best when there is a period set aside for local government at every level, our school districts and churches, synagogues, and youth service organizations coming together to provide these educational programs. Therefore, be it resolved that we, the Putnam Valley Central School District, declare April 2017 as the Teen Driver Safety Awareness Month.
Second.
Questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, that was quick. Moving on to the consent agenda. Number 1.
Resolved to approve the consent agenda items 2 through 9 as presented to the board at this meeting.
Second.
Questions or comments?
We have the CSE, CPSE placements. We're approving a contract with the Rice School District for providing health and welfare services for 2 of our students attending non-public schools in their district. We're approving an agreement with Mercy College to provide auditory assessments, hearing tests, middle ear tests, etc., when needed by our students. We're approving 2 teachers to prepare ENL, English as a New Language course. We're approving additions to a substitute tutor list. We're approving additional hours for the CSE, CPSE chairperson to finalize and review students' annual IEPs. And we're approving a family medical leave request, and we're approving the JV girls lacrosse coach.
Second, we did that already? All in favor?
Aye.
Sorry.
Those are comments.
That was the comments part. Sorry about that. Okay, open it up to public comment on any topic.
Dan?
I have 2.
I was just going to say open up to the board. Go ahead,
Yeah.
Mr.
Okay, the first
Cohen?
one is this Tuesday at 2:30, the CTC, the Community That Cares, is
Right,
holding a meeting, and I usually represent the board, and I cannot make it at 2:30 on Tuesday if anyone else is available. It meets at the school here.
Yes,
But,
it meets
you
at the
know,
library.
if someone can make it, I appreciate it. Otherwise, I have to find a way of changing my schedule. But, okay, that's just a minor one,
I
you
can
know.
give it a try because I will be in for the interviews at 4, so maybe I can do something, leave a little early and get there first.
but
Because
if
it
you
doesn't
can't-
run, it's about an hour, hour and a half?
Yes, it's
Yeah, if that, yeah.
Okay.
But it's no big deal, you know, because
Okay.
he sends out detailed minutes, Billy. Okay, the last thing, and I think we have this, because we have this great attendance in the audience right now, we shouldn't be discussing it, but it better be on the agenda for the next one. We should talk about the start time at the high school and get close to finalizing. Do we want to move it up? And things that we might, or that you can have the administrators do, why not do a survey of our current students? Do a real survey, a simple survey, find out what grade they're in, do they want an early start or not, you know. I've spoken to a lot of students and parents, and I have some feedback, but I think we'll discuss it when they know it's an agenda item, and we might have people here in the audience who will really listen and participate.
Can we put a discussion on the agenda?
It could definitely be a topic.
Presentation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm a little concerned about the survey piece, because we've done real surveys here at the high school, and, you know, the response is clear that it's
no.
really not.
I know.
No, it's not something they want, so I'm not so sure
Well, we did get feedback from Sarah last meeting that with the idea of it being a pilot, it was more palatable to them, to students, and
But I shot down the pilot idea, I thought, pretty well.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I just don't think it's a pilot. I think it's either you're in or you're not. So I think
really-
it's a big decision that we
Yeah,
should.
and it's
Yeah.
really, in a way, looking for a preference in that situation. It's not necessarily, I don't know if it's really
it's
appropriate. It's more,
because I just started on, my school is 6 months behind us, and we just started our committee to explore the later start time in Nyack, and it's happening everywhere. Like, schools all over the county are doing that. So I think some of the athletic questions are going to not be as much of a concern, because everybody is wanting the later start times.
But maybe it warrants a move to start in the beginning of a school year, not this one, but the following one, because some of the feedback I've gotten since the last discussion in relation to the starting of the new start time was in the middle of a winter season, and it's just going to be add another inconvenience to the inconveniences that we've been.
so you're saying 18, 19.
Right,
and it gives us a little bit more time to, and I'm not trying to not make a decision.
I
I'm
understand.
just saying it gives us a little bit more time, and it changes that.
Now, by next meeting, we will have the ridership survey. We're doing a ridership count, and if it may show us that we may not need the 4 buses, and that's going to be
Well, that's another piece
That
of
will be a
information.
piece of
But to
information.
Guy's point, we've talked about it at several meetings, and we've talked about it at length in some of them, but I don't know that the public understood that there was, knew enough yet, and now they know more, that there is an actual discussion of that as a topic, and that they can maybe we'll get some people to contribute
Yes.
from the public.
I think
then.
that's a good idea.
Yeah.
I do too. And should we have something before the meeting or at the meeting?
I prefer
would say
at because
at.
I can't
agree
get
with
here
you.
early.
Well,
I agree with
work.
you, by the way.
Yeah.
You've had two public
Yes.
forums, both are on the website.
I
People have
believe
commented on
it
them.
should be at the meeting.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think,
I agree
because,
with you.
Yep.
you know, there's a lot, and let's try to make it as new in terms of new information that's come to light. One of the questions that came up, I know, the last time we talked with athletics was
Get closer to the mic.
fees if you're late. You know, fees if you're late. And I was just sitting in on the committee in the other district, and apparently you can negotiate start times for games. So the play, well, to 4:45 instead of 4:30.
Yeah, that really isn't, I don't
Right,
think.
oh, no, it's not, but it
We're
was one
early
of the things that came up.
compared to
One
some
of
of
the
the
things that came up
Yeah.
was, what if there are fees?
We're
I don't think
actually
that's-
early
Yes.
compared to some of the other.
Even with the later time.
Yes.
Yes. The proposal for the later time in my school district is 3:05 ending. And they do not anticipate having problems getting to their games. And they play Arlington, they play far games.
And they already start later than we do.
They start at 7:40,
Yeah.
what we're proposing to, so.
And I
We're
think,
starting at 7:50,
I
I
certainly
think.
agree with the idea that we can, I think we better serve people if we're going to make a change, do it in the beginning of a year.
Yeah, in January.
Because of the way the seasons fall, vacations fall, et cetera. We probably would push it so it wasn't in the middle of a season. So that doesn't mean which year. I'm not selecting which year. I know what I would say, but I certainly think the middle of the year is creating another problem by trying to split the baby.
But
So-
I would like to stop the discussion now.
Right, because there's-
Even
right.
this minor point, this is something that we should all be talking about when the community knows that we're going to talk about, and maybe, you know, we will get a few people to
Yes,
sit through
yes.
this.
Okay, that's fine. And let's alert the girls so they can talk to their students
Yes.
about coming in again.
Yeah.
Okay.
So not next meeting, the meeting after, maybe, or the next meeting?
Or next meeting.
I think it should be.
Why not next meeting?
I don't know, I don't know if we're going to have that information on the ridership, I think.
Yeah, we will.
It was
That'll-
on for
By
that
the-
meeting anyway.
Yes, that's when we're.
By the end of the month, right? It was March.
The end of this month.
The end of this
Yeah.
month. We were.
Yeah, next week.
So the April meeting is April 6th. Right, that's Thursday. Okay. All right, anything
Is
else?
that the
from-
same, sorry, is that the same meeting we were supposed to adopt? Or first chance to adopt?
Yes.
It is.
Okay.
Oh, this is our board?
Well, we don't have to decide
Are
that.
these
You-
board comments after everything? Is that what you're asking for more?
Yes, any
Yeah, I
other-
just want, one thing, I'm just going to make, hopefully a unique pitch for voting at every board meeting at the end here. And I think that, that people need to start looking at voting in a slightly different way, not just as paying civic duty or as what I'm going to get if we win. I think it needs to be looked at as an expression of your support for the school system, and or not. That's fine too. And I think that I'm not asking anybody. There's only 200 people that watch this, but I ask everybody who believes in voting and believes in our experiment here in a public education, to demand that their friends and family vote, and ask the same of them. Not just the people that can hear me, but really make it a priority. It's really 5 minutes out of your life. So that's it.
Very well said. Thank
I
you
had
so
two
much.
things. Went to on Monday, the Mandarin meeting for sixth graders moving up to seventh grade. I thought that it was a decently attended event, and it'd be very interesting to see how many will decide to sign up, and how I'd be interested in how that's going to happen, because right now you don't sign up for Spanish, you just get assigned Spanish. So the outreach is going to be see how that works. Opt in. You're not going to be placed in. You're going to have to opt into the class. Correct.
Yes.
That's the model.
Almost like selecting your course.
Right.
Yes.
And I think I don't know that I could take the class. I'm not. I don't think I can handle it. I'm just looking at the textbooks and I lost. And even though it's
Old
like the
dog,
best,
new tricks. They're young dogs.
Yes. So I'm glad that they have the elastic brains that I don't have anymore. And I think I mentioned this somewhere, but I can't remember where. We were talking about creating an alumni society now that we've got 10 years of graduates, 15 years of graduates. That the question was, the issue was always, how do we get to the students once they graduate and their emails change and they don't answer emails. But we're talking about, well, the parents still exist, and we still have the parents' emails. We can enlist parents to get to their kids, to get them back to vote, or to just to be engaged with the district, because especially when you're looking for mentors, or and not that our graduates would be ready to be mentors at this age, but they can be placed in positions that can be helpful to other students, especially for the Journeys program. They can definitely play a part in there. That somehow creating, and it's a lot of work, but I think we might benefit somehow just figuring out how to do an alumni society. I know that the issue is always getting to the students because you can never get their information. But if we still have the data from when they were their parents, we can get to them, I think.
And our first
think in
graduates.
some more engagement, I guess, was it the last meeting or 2 meetings ago where there was a basketball fundraiser downstairs?
Right.
And Harrison, alumni, was in the game. But I think alumni sporting, I think inviting some alumni back into that might get them engaged, because it's hard to have 20-somethings interested in some of the stuff we do.
Putnam Valley Lacrosse Day is a reunion, because a lot of
right. I mean, if we could do that with all different sports, we could talk to Brian about different events like that.
And maybe it's time for to start thinking about the Hall of Fame for athletes. They're
see that kind of stuff.
We're,
right.
We're 15 years out. I know that we can. That's something that could start as well.
Didn't TheaterWorks have, they had a special night last year?
do.
Yes.
Every Saturday is the alumni
Saturday
show.
is the alumni
Yeah.
show? Right, that's what I thought.
Yeah, they do a good job.
Well,
there.
our first graduates are 31 this year. They're turning 31, so
Wow.
they're out there.
We're going to get another generation coming in soon.
They're out there, so, okay, so, thank you, that's a very good point. So I'd like now a motion to adjourn the business meeting?
So moved.
Second.
Questions or comments? All in favor? Aye. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.